And so all Palpatine had to do was dial in to the right frequency of Anakin's emotions, play on those emotions, and then he could get Anakin to do anything that he wanted him to do.
You're listening to
Path of the Jedi
with your host, Ronnie Cruz.
All right, welcome to Path of the Jedi, the podcast where Star Wars meets personal development. Bright Sun citizens, my name is Ronnie Cruz. I am your host for this amazing journey. And yeah, I think it's going to be a shorter episode this week. It is Thanksgiving week here in the United States, and I've got some relaxing to do, or at least I'm going to try. I did promise myself I would take some time off this weekend. We'll see how that goes. I'm just one of those kind of individuals that has a hard time taking downtime, you know, as an entrepreneur, as a network marketer who has his own time freedom. I love to do stuff, right? I love to create. I love doing stuff like this podcast. And so I have a hard time sitting still. Well, it's also one of the ways that anxiety manifests itself, but that's a topic for a whole different conversation altogether. The other thing was our topics, speaking of, for this episode, we're going to continue on the Jedi Code. And I think they're going to be relatively easy and simple topics to cover. So let's just dive right into it. The remaining pillars of the Jedi Code that we're going to cover today are as follows. There is no passion. There is serenity. There is no chaos. There is harmony. Now, there is one more pillar that wraps up the Jedi Code that reads, there is no death, there is the Force. And I'm just going to leave that one where it is. I don't necessarily want to get into a discussion about death and, you know, the different belief systems around what happens after life. So we're going to stick to talking about passion and chaos today. Now, if you remember back to last week's episode, adding the word if to the front end of these Jedi Code pillars makes them actually much more easy to understand. So let's do it with this first one. If there is no passion, there is serenity. So already, just with the addition of that one word, if, this pillar, this tenet makes much more sense. And we can move forward and try to answer the question that naturally arises. How can there be no passion, right? Like, of course, there's got to be passion. That's part of life. That's part of this experience as a human being, is having and experiencing passion and emotion. So it's an entirely fair question because we are living, feeling beings. Well, I think there are two ways that passion can hijack things and rob us of our serenity. The first is when we allow our passions to govern our behavior, right? When we allow these extreme swings of emotion to dictate how we act. The worst case example of this is when you hear of individuals committing crimes of passion, right? Because they've allowed themselves to get swept away by their own extreme emotions. And that's all passion is. It's defined by Oxford Languages as strong and barely controllable emotion. And I get it, right? It's difficult sometimes to rein in strong emotion, especially if there's substance involved, right? But remember, if you again reference back to last week's episode, we are not our emotions, right? Our emotions don't have to be, if we don't let them, they don't have to be in the driver's seat. We can choose to take control. And it's a matter of just stepping back and detaching yourself from that extreme emotion. Because if you don't, it will completely hijack your serenity and your peace of mind. Now, you might be saying, well, Ronnie, you yourself in the past have admitted that you have a passion for Star Wars. How is that any different? And that's an entirely fair question. You guys know that I have a passion for Star Wars. You know that I have a love and appreciation for it so much that I created this podcast, right? I think the difference is that while I have a love and appreciation, a passion for Star Wars, that love and appreciation and passion isn't attached to Star Wars. The love and appreciation and the passion is within me. It's mine and mine alone, and it's not conditional on anything outside of me. You see, when we attach our emotional states to things outside of us, like people or circumstances or events, that's exactly when we potentially give up our serenity because we're giving up our control. And we're at the whim of wherever the tide takes us, wherever the currents take us. And we all know that the waters can be very, very choppy. If your emotional state, and therefore your state of being, is conditional to something outside of your control, then you're going to be in for one hell of a ride. Going back to Star Wars as an example, and this is, relatively harmless example, but back a couple of weeks ago, whenever that was that they did Disney Plus Day, there were so many people in the Star Wars fandom that were upset that they did not give us an Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. It sounds absolutely ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what happens when you attach your passion, when you attach your emotional state to something that you have no control over. And don't get me wrong, I have some strong opinions about Star Wars. For example, with the last movie, The Rise of Skywalker, my opinion, I thought that movie was a complete mess. And, I can give you critical analysis to support that opinion, but I loved it nonetheless. Because my love and appreciation, my passion for Star Wars doesn't have any conditions. It's not attached to the thing itself. It's within me. It's my choice. Choice allows for control, and control helps you prevent your passions from hijacking your emotional state. Now, there's another angle to this that I think warrants conversation, especially in the context of modern times, right? In the modern context, in today's context. When we feel strongly and passionately about a thing and we don't detach ourselves from that emotional state, we put ourselves at risk of potentially being subject to manipulation. In Star Wars, we have Anakin Skywalker, who we all know is incredibly emotionally volatile, and he was never able to detach himself from those emotional states. And so all Palpatine had to do was dial in to the right frequency of Anakin's emotions, play on those emotions, and then he could get Anakin to do anything that he wanted him to do. And I say this is pertinent to our conversation because we see this playing out every day. The most glaring example being politics. Look, it's okay to have passion and to be passionate about something, to feel strongly about something, but we have to make sure that we detach ourselves from those strong emotional feelings, right? From those strong emotional states, because number one, we run the risk of those passions and emotional states hijacking us, and number two, we run the risk of those passions and emotional states being hijacked by someone else. So have passion, absolutely. Just make sure that you work on being detached from those things. If there is no passion, there is serenity. All right, there was actually a lot more to that one than I had anticipated, but it was a good discussion nonetheless. The next pillar, the next tenet in the Jedi Code that we want to cover, hopefully won't take as long, but it is, there is no chaos, there is harmony. And of course, let's add the word if to the front of it. If there is no chaos, there is harmony. And then that leads us to the question, well, how do we get to a point where there is no chaos? I believe that order is a construct of the human mind. It's the human mind's attempt to make sense of the external world, right? We create meanings, we create definitions, definitions create labels, labels create categories, and so we create these constructs to help us conceptualize the world and the things that are going on around us. But really, none of that lives anywhere else except in our own minds. When we detach ourselves from all the meanings and the definitions that we ascribe to the world around us, really, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. We have to come to terms with the fact that there is no such thing as external certainty, and that the harder we try to cling to that notion, the less harmony we'll have in our lives. If we accept that there's chaos around us, that there's constant change, there's constant uncertainty, and detach ourselves from trying to control those things, then we can start moving towards a state of harmony. And in doing so, we can realize that harmony exists within us to begin with, and we just have to choose it. So Serenity and harmony. These are states of being that you can absolutely achieve. Well, not only achieve, but you can choose, right? Because they are states of being that exist within you, not outside of you. And the really cool thing is that when you really foster these states of being within yourself, then it starts to reflect in the world around you. Right? The world that you experience, your perception of that world will start to feel more serene, will start to feel more harmonious. That, to me, is the essence of the Jedi Code, to help us realize and understand that the external universe is a mere reflection of the internal universe. So whatever state of being you want to live in, know that it's already within you. You just have to choose it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there and leave some more on the table. The Jedi Code is a conversation that I think we'll repeatedly have here on the Path of the Jedi, because it's such a rich and dense topic. So many things that and angles that we can talk about. So let's save that for future. In the meantime, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of this episode and the last episodes, the things that we talked about in the Jedi Code? Let me know what your thoughs are. You can hit me up on Twitter or Facebook. It's POTJ Podcast for both of those. Or you can send an email to info@pathofthejedi.com with the title of this episode in the subject heading. And yeah, just let me know what you think. You can also leave an MP3 as well. I'd love to play that here on the show in the next episode. Again, it's info@pathofthejedi.com, or Facebook and Twitter, it's POTJ Podcast. Okay, so some news and updates real quick before we wrap up this episode. The first thing I want to let you guys know is there are some programs coming up here in the very near future. The first one is called Big Picture 6 Weeks. It's a 6-week online program that's advisor-led. You'll have a weekly advisor call, but it's designed to help you create a crystal clear vision that puts you in the driver's seat of your life. So that's starting actually on November 29th. I'll put the link to that particular program in the show notes and on the blog post, so you guys can take a look at it. Let me know if you're interested in that. Again, send me an email. I do have a code where you can get a massive discount on this program. So again, it's called The Big Picture, and it starts November 29th. The other program is called Global Wealth Mindset, and I've mentioned this program before in past episodes. The next round of this program is starting January 17th. Like the Big Picture program, it's a 6-week advisor-led program, and it says here it provides creative, outcome-focused techniques to help you increase your wealth and abundance. As I said, I've talked about this program before in the past. If finances has always been one of those things that's been an uphill battle for you, this might be a good program to take. I'll leave the link in the show notes and on the blog, and definitely, again, message me if you are interested. Now, outside of those programs, coming up in December, I will be leading a weekly discussion group on the book Think and Grow Rich. Now, I read this book once a year, and I've done so for many years now. And I figured this year, why not do a discussion group, right? So we're going to be doing a weekly discussion group. If you'd like to join, number one, you can get your own copy of Think and Grow Rich from the Path of the Jedi website. So go to pathofthejedi.com and look for the recommended reading list, get your copy, and then send me an email. Send an email to info@pathofthejedi.com with Think and Grow Rich in the subject heading, and let me know that you want to join the discussion. I'll send you the weekly Zoom link. It happens on Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a great call. You'll have an opportunity not just to hear my insights about the book, but you'll have an opportunity to share your own insights, right? Your own perspectives. So I think we all stand to gain a lot from this experience and this call. So again, go to pathofthejedi.com and grab your own copy of Think and Grow Rich from the recommended reading list, and then shoot an email over to pathofthejedi.com with Think and Grow Rich in the subject heading. next update real quick is that I am going to be up in the Hershey, Pennsylvania area again the weekend of December 4th. So if you want to link up and talk Star Wars, talk personal development, talk network marketing, if you want to learn about my company, Yoli, that I'm with, let's link up. Hit me up on any of the social medias. Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or send me an email. And yeah, I definitely want to link up with you if you're there, if you're in the area, if you want to link up and chat and talk all things Path of the Jedi. Okay, last but most certainly not least, this week's shout out goes to Romainne Luis, my dear friend Romainne. I am just super proud of her, and I want to brag on her for just a few minutes here. Romainne, number one, she's an amazing network marketer. She has a thriving and successful network marketing organization. She also, like myself, is a certified HSOS advisor. She went through that program, that certification process with me, and most recently, she just finished her certification to be a personal coach through the Tony Robbins School of Personal Coaching. So super proud of her. And she's done all of this through the pandemic in New York City while raising two young, beautiful boys, one of which is only a few months old. So Romainne, super proud of you. Congratulations on all your successes. Guys, I'll leave her website and her social media info in the show notes. Track her down if you're looking for a personal coach. She will be launching her personal coaching business here in the coming weeks. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Again, Romainne, congratulations. This shout out goes to you. And that's going to do it, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, for sharing your last 15 to 20 minutes here with me on Path of the Jedi. I am so grateful to each and every one of you. I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate your support here at Path of the Jedi. And really, I just wish you all the best. Remember, starting next week, we're going to be doing something a little different. So in the meantime, you guys are just going to have to wait in breathless anticipation. So until then, be well, be safe, and may the Force be with you. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company nor Lucasfilm Limited, and is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is intellectual property of Path of the Jedi unless otherwise indicated.